Hi, hello, welcome. My name's Amber, and today I thought we would paint this loose, misty, ripply water scene here. It's just going to be intuitive. It's just going to kind of come out of nowhere, and I'm hoping to share how I do that with you. So, as always, I use a plexiglass 100% cotton paper. I tape my paper down two sides first, usually the tops and the bottoms and the sides at the same time. And so that just gives a nice seal. I'm using a tape from Jackson. I don't love it. It does leak, and you'll see that on most of my paintings lately. I'm just trying to get through the tape and use it up. So bear with me while I use this horrible tape. And it's funny, I used to love this tape. But if you need a good tape, buy Holbein soft tape from Dick Blick's. It's amazing and seals up perfectly and does not leak, unlike this stuff. Anyway, so after I get my tape on my paper all sealed up, I'm going to press the sides down as much as I possibly can. It doesn't fully work even though I press on them, but it just is what it is for now. And so with this loose landscape, I'm going to do wet on wet. If you're new to watercolor, wet on wet is just wetting the entire paper first, making sure it has a moment to soak in. So I like to spray mine, and then I like to take my flat brush and kind of wipe that around. I'm just pulling some fuzz off. I inevitably get some sort of fuzz in my paper. And so, yeah, take the flat brush and just kind of go horizontal and then vertical as well to make sure that the water gets in all those little crevices and cracks and valleys of your 100% cotton paper. And I wipe off the edges because you don't want the water going back into the paper. You also don't want it puddling. You just want a nice sheen. So I just show you my 1 inch flat brush, and then I'm showing you my little smaller flat brush that I like to use for skies. I'm actually, take that back. I don't necessarily like it yet. I'm trying it. And I am using some Masha handmade paints here. And I did this really quickly. And I know it feels really quickly. And it is really quickly. And that's okay. I feel like this gets you out of your comfort. Just get the paper, the paint on the paper, and leave a little bit of white space in the middle. That's going to be your horizon. You can leave it a little bit up higher, a little bit lower. It's not super, doesn't super matter where you leave it. And then I'm just going to drop in some more color for the sky cloud, for the sky's clouds, and maybe some more dimension and depth. And I'm not being particularly anal. I'm just kind of getting it in there and seeing what looks okay. I'm not aiming for anything in particular here. I have nothing in my head. I can't see images in my head, so I'm just kind of hoping something will happen. I'm actually using some dioxazine purple there, dioxazine, and I did a little too heavy, so I'm trying to use my brush and pick up a little bit of that paint. Was blending in that middle a little bit to kind of lessen the stark white because it's pretty bright there. And then I'm going to take my hockey brush and I'm just going to brush the whole thing, kind of sweep it very lightly though. And that was an absolutely dry brush. So here I'm using a very watered down color of the same color I've been using. I've been using maybe 2 or 3 different purples and pinks and just kind of alternating. I didn't want to tell you the colors just so that you would try to use what you have. But if you need to know what Masha colors I use, I'll be happy to let you know what colors they are. And so I'm just going to lightly do some trees here, very, very lightly. And again, I'm suggesting these trees. I'm not being super particular about each branch or each, trunk or anything like that. I'm just suggesting that they are there. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side, although these ones are going to be a little bit closer, so they're darker and they're less loose, right? They're a little more detailed. The paper's a little more drier on this side. Well, and I'm also just using more pigment. So the more pigment you use, the more detail you can retain, right? Even if your paper is wet. So I do these 3 little trees, and then I'm going to give each one a little bit of land and reflection and shadow. So you'll see here that once I get this done, I'm just going to take my brush and kind of sweep it across. And that will be some land. And then we can do the tree reflection after that. And again, this is just the dark pigment, watered down a little bit, but not super watered down. And so reflections are starting, and I'm not, again, being very particular about these reflections. I'm just sort of suggesting that it's happening, right? It's not perfect. It's not going to match up. The tree heights and the heights of the reflections aren't going to match, and that's okay. We're just playing, we're experimenting, we're staying loose, and we're testing these colors out and exploring, right? So that if you want to do this down the road, and go detailed and not loose, you can absolutely do that and know which color combinations you really liked. My toxic trait is I always forget what colors I use because I'm so just in the moment, intuitive. I just grab and go. Even when I'm doing something like this, I still rarely note down the colors. I believe it's Quin Magenta and maybe, I can't remember, manganese purple, maybe manganese, however you say that one. So then on the left, I'm going a little bit lighter with my reflection because again, it's supposed to be a little bit farther back, and I want to make sure that kind of stays that way. Or maybe it's in the mist. I don't know. You don't have to know. Nothing has to be perfect on this. Just kind of go with it. Do what feels right in the moment. And I did try to keep that light in the middle, if you notice. And I kind of like the idea. I wasn't sure if I was going to add the trees or if I was just going to keep it really super simple. But I like the fact that your eye kind of gravitates towards that light. And here with the ripples, I'm adding those. The paper's still damp. I'm adding those ripples, and I'm kind of steering away from that middle center area. And if I do, I use a lighter paint. And so I'm going to sweep again. Again, that brush is dry. It has not been wet at all. It's completely dry, and it's my always dry brush. So I like to keep one that never ever gets wet, and that one never does. It just is for dry brushing all the time. Dry brushing in a different sense than the typical dry brushing, right? Dry sweeping, I should call it. Dry sweeping. Let's coin it that. So now I'm just adding some more. I had a violet, I had a pink. I'm just kind of varying these colors of these ripples so that it gives some depth and just some more to this, because it is a very kind of a simple loose picture, and I just want to kind of add a little bit more to that. So I do this maybe, I don't know, however many times you need before you're comfortable. I think I ended up doing it 3 or 4 times. And again, I swept it a little bit so that it would just kind of blend together a little bit. I don't want the major harsh lines, and you will see that I do have some. And so then I take my round, this is a round 4, I believe. It's a silver black velvet silver brush. They don't use anymore that often because it has half squirrel hair, and I prefer my brushes to be synthetic. And unfortunately, I do like some of their brushes, so I still use them. So there I am sweeping again, and you can see those harsh lines. I'm going to go in a little bit with a brush that's wet, but also kind of dry, so that I can kind of just blend. Here I am blending those out a little bit to make them less harsh, and just kind of, blending them in so they're not as like prominent, right? You kind of want them to be, I mean, if you like the prominent, absolutely leave them. I'm just not very great at these ripples yet. So I'm just showing you kind of things that I'm messing with. And so to get the idea of ripples without, there you go. Sorry, I was off screen a little bit there, but there I am trying to really brush those ripples out a little bit because they're so hard and they stood out too much, right? I didn't want that much contrast. I just want a little bit of depth to that water without being so highly contrasted like I had it. See, now I'm just gonna mush it around. Sometimes you can do that. Okay, drying the whole darn thing. I'm gonna add some birds. This is my Shimoni liner that I won. It's made by, was it Fibonacci? And so it's just a very, very thin liner, and it works great for birds. I actually love it now. So I add my little signature, newer signature of 2 birds right in the center, 2 different directions. I found that I really like that, and I really like to keep them very light, so kept them nice and light and just kind of there, not very prominent, but if you look, you see them, they are there. And so yeah, this one was fun. I don't know, I did this one kind of first, you'll see it on my feed on Instagram. I did it in kind of a more of a blue feel. I'm messing with that bird. Its wing was a little too light for me. So anyway, I did this one in a blue on Instagram. So if you wanted to see it in blue, go check that out. You could do it in any colors, really. You could do it in some greens and make it like a misty Pacific Northwest feel over the lake. You can do it in oranges, like a sunset. You could do it any way you like with any different color combinations. And I invite you to explore and do so. And invite you to do what comes to you intuitively. If this doesn't float your boat, add a boat. If you I crack myself up, if you want to try something else. So there's my moshes. They're all quarter pans that I'm using right there. They're single pigments, and I just played with them, and these are the brushes I ended up using. Some rounds, some liners. And if you have any questions about any of the supplies, just let me know, and I'll be happy to answer them in the comments. And I hope you have a great day, and I can't wait to see your creations too. Bye.